walk with every sip and laugh. Coffee's the fuel, martini's the craft. Conversation swirling in the cool night air. Talk the walk, we're going somewhere.
Good morning, Alan.
Good evening, Leanne. I think we got to have a sing-along, with the jingle.
I think so too. I mean, we've got the lyrics up there. Look, before last year, we wouldn't be able to do this because the AI didn't exist to create that jingle. I mean, we could have outsourced it, but pretty fun. We could have a new jingle every episode.
Well, see, this is real progress. This is what AI is for, so we can change our jingle.
Absolutely. It's absolutely transforming our lives. Alan, Hey, Thanksgiving. This is a big deal in the US. Nothing's changed in Australia. I find it fascinating that you've got such a big holiday a month out from Christmas. Like that's huge.
Well, and then there's New Year's. I mean, this is the holiday season. Yeah. And of course, Thanksgiving is one of the big secular holidays, so nobody can get bent out of shape by saying Happy Thanksgiving, I don't think. And tomorrow, on Thanksgiving Day here, 80 million Americans will travel more than 50 miles from home. 70 million will do it by automobile, and 5 million will do it at the airports. Whoa. So there's a lot of amateurs on the road tomorrow.
Yeah. It's a good day to stay off the road, right?
We're driving 10 minutes to a restaurant.
Lovely. I would really not like to be in an airport either. I mean, I'm curious, we'll talk about our topic very soon, but US airports, there's some great ones. I think LaGuardia is quite nice. Then there are some not so great ones.
Well, LaGuardia has been redone at great expense over the past few years. So yeah, it's nice. Yeah. There are some good ones and some bad ones. Yeah. But, don't forget, this is a country with, I don't know what, 10,000 airports or something. It's a big place, so it's a big place. Such is life. But, and tomorrow, on top of all that, it's supposed to be very stormy here in the Northeast.
Oh.
Yeah, really. So you're going to have delayed flights. You're going to have cars, bumper to bumper. So Thanksgiving is that you get home safely.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so be safe if you're listening in and take it easy on your travels. If you are joining us live, let us know where you're joining us from and maybe how you're spending your Thanksgiving if you're in the US. Today's topic is how to discover your purpose. Now, this was a question that came through on our last live stream, and it's a difficult one to answer in a minute. And so we thought we'd take the time to really explore this today. Alan, just to kick off, why is it important to have a purpose?
I think that you can't drift through life, You can struggle, or you can work hard, or you can apply yourself to get to a certain level of comfort and success for you, for your family. But in my community especially, there are more and more people who have achieved a very, very high level of success. And I'm not just talking money, I mean discretionary time and being philanthropic and so forth. But they're asking a question, what happens after success? And as a matter of fact, in a few months, I'm running a live program in person. It's called Beyond Success. So I think it's important for people to know who they want to be. And you and I have discussed this before, but when I say to people, who do you want to be in a year? They keep telling me what they want to be doing, but that's not the question. It's who do you want to be? There's a great quote from Picasso. He says that it might be apocryphal, but it's nevertheless fun. He claims that his mother said to him, "You are a genius, you're brilliant. If you enter the clergy, you'll be Pope. If you enter the army, you'll be a great general." He says, but I decided to go into art and I became Picasso.
I know. I love that quote.
Fabulous, fabulous quote. You think about the meaning of that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I think when we did talk about that, I said to you, when you asked me that question, I was answering in terms of tasks. And then you pulled me out of that and you said, you're not dreaming big enough. How important is it to share that or to work with someone on defining your purpose? Because often we are a product of our environment and we kind of are limited by what we see immediately around us.
Well, not only that, I mean, you're absolutely correct. But, we have only 3 dimensions, past, present, and future. I've invented that and I've trademarked it. If anybody wants to use it, past, present, future, that's mine. But people look to the past with memory. And they generally tend to remember the best and the worst. Now, today, my uncle used to say, why are you putting pictures away in an album? Nobody looks at the albums. But today, they're screensavers. And so you see all these photos. But again, you don't remember the middle so much. It's the best and the worst. In the present, we look around, we have perceptions. but your perception, my perception, two different things, you know?
Mhm.
And so you look to the future and you're using imagination. And imagination is the weakest of the three. Uh, 30 years ago, people said by today there'd be flying cars, and cars that could go in water, and we'd be on Mars. Of course, we have the internet, but nobody predicted that. So I think it's important to understand what your purpose in life is going to be, and it might change.
Yeah.
But another quick story that some of you have probably heard, but I like telling it, so that's too bad. There's an old trope in the speaker business. I mean, everybody used to tell the story. You come along and there's a stonemason, and the stonemason's laying bricks, and you say, "What are you doing?" Stonemason says, "I'm." You go to the next one. "What are you doing?" Stonemason says, "I'm building a cathedral." And so the moral of that story is supposed to be, if you have a higher purpose, you're going to be more effective. But I think there's a third stonemason, and the third stonemason, when you ask, says, "I'm bringing people closer to God." That's a calling.
Mm.
When you have a calling, it involves two things, I think. It involves passion on your part, which makes it a pleasure. It's not onerous. You'll put up with difficulties, but you want to do it. And it has to involve importance to the world, to people, to society. Has to be an improvement. So you've just put up still another of my double axis charts here. And if you look at passion on the vertical and importance on the horizontal, in the upper right, that's a calling. I'm highly passionate, and I'm really, it's important to people. So I try to help people improve their lives beyond their aspirations, be safe and secure and so forth.
Mm.
If you doing something of high importance, but you're not passionate about it, the bottom line, that's a grind. That's a 9-to-5 job. If you don't have passion and it's not important, you're drowning. You're just flailing.
Mm.
The upper left is interesting because if you're doing something that you love doing, but it's a little important, that's an addiction. And so, for example, I will make a confession here on our show that I have two addictions. One is Angry Birds and the second is Wordle. And I play these constantly. I play them daily. I find them terrifically rewarding. And my addiction does not get in anyone else's way. I mean, I didn't say to Leanne, "I can't get on the show today. I have to finish Angry Birds." So I have it in proportion.
Yeah.
But some people have an addiction for alcohol or chocolate or drugs. I mean, you name it. So that addictive personality can be minor, but it also can be too high. And that's when your passion is about something that doesn't help society, really.
Okay. So that's the difference.
Yeah. And so I think that it's important to have some kind of control, cognizance, influence on your calling and who you want to be, because otherwise you tend to be driven there by other forces. It's almost like a ship with no power, and it's the tides and the winds. You can't be that way. You have to have motive power to get where you want to go.
Yeah, it just reminds me, and hopefully I don't stuff up this quote as I share it. I remember Jim Rohn saying something about having a life plan, because if you don't have a plan, someone will have a plan for you. And guess what that is? Not much. And I just, I really like that. I actually have that on my wall as like just a call to be intentional. If you're joining us, let us know what resonates with you from this. Do you know what your purpose is? Have you discovered it? Have you got a great question? Let us know in the comments. Let's focus on the bottom right here, the grind. I think this can be a bit of a trap sometimes, because when you are good at something, you're capable at it, that's where you can climb a career ladder. I'm great at it. And then you sort of wake up 10 to 15 years later and you think, what am I doing? Like, I'm good at this, but it doesn't drive me. I'm sure you've worked with many leaders that are sort of caught in that grind, and then you get stuck with the income and the status and everything else that comes along with it.
Yeah, that's my point. You can get trapped by other forces. Suddenly you have a family or whatever, and you have debt. This is particularly true with certain professions like dentistry. Dentistry in the United States has a very high rate of suicide. And that's because a lot of dentists go into the business because their parents were in it, or a relative was in it, or they couldn't get into med school, so they went to dental school, things like this. Once you're a dentist, you are rooted in the community, no pun intended here. You can't just close the doors and go somewhere else, and you don't go into insurance. And so you're stuck in this job every day where you're looking at people's mouths. Now, if you see this as contributing to people's health and making them better people and giving them a smile, that's fine. But if you're tired of looking at people's mouths, that's pretty depressing. And what happens is a lot of people justify grinding away to get to the next job, but it turns out to be another grind. And so
Yes.
if you're a salesperson and you say, God, I hate this, but I'm going to get good. I'm going to sell so I can be sales manager. And they get to be sales manager. They find out they hate managing people.
I know. It's so well. This is why I sort of left corporate. I'm not saying that. I mean, you can have a 9 to 5 and also be in the top right, absolutely. But for me personally, I was looking up the chain at work and just seeing how excited people were. Everyone looks pretty tired. They were working way longer hours. I'm like, what's the incentive for actually being more senior here? Like for me, there wasn't any incentive to do that. So while it felt like a risk at the time, it was probably the best decision ever. Let's talk about the passion part of your 2x2. A common question I get is like, there's some people out there that are super lucky and they sort of wake up and they know what they're passionate about. They're a great singer, great artist, whatever it is. But there's many of us also that are like, what am I passionate about? Like, I don't have a passion. What's your advice for people like them, like me sometimes?
I don't think that's unusual, and I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's not a defect, but I do think there are ways to deal with that. In other words, you have to widen your horizons. If you have no passion about anything in your current existence, in your current milieu, then you have to say, okay, let me get out of here. I don't mean move, but you got to travel. You got to make new friends. You got to look into different interests. You have to maybe try a new hobby. Because normally, if you don't have passion about anything and you don't expand your horizons, nothing new is going to enter that. It's unlikely. So you have to go outside and find new things to do. And I have found people who suddenly become absolutely engaged, for example, in photography. And I find people who become engaged in fine food or in wines. Now, sometimes that's a hobby, but a lot of times it leads into their work. I encourage the people I coach. For example, some of the people I coach are classical pianists, and I tell them, use that on your website. Use that in your collateral. Is your company harmonious? Or your sales atonal? I mean, but I think it's important to do.
I like that. Yeah, I really love that as well. Like, because like you always talk about, work and life are not separate. We're one person. So how do we start bringing in all of this stuff? And that's why I do, like, even on these podcasts and live streams, I mention things like Tom Cruise, who I'm passionate about. But like just bringing in just things about yourself, because it makes you more relatable as well.
But you do have passions. I mean, you are ebullient. You're excited about things. So I think one of your passions, which is a calling for you, it's not an addiction, is that you want to help people express training and development and education to others better and better. And so you write books, you create models and so forth to help people do that. And you got a tremendous response to that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really come out of it wasn't me waking up and trying to discover that passion. It was born out of a frustration of the way things were done. So I think, rather than having to, I think a lot of the time we think finding our passion is soul searching and post-it noting, but it's actually getting in the ring and just paying attention to what fuels you or what actually kind of ticks you off. That can also be a good driver.
Yeah, you can be passionate because you're irritated about something else. But I also think to be passionate, to allow yourself to be passionate, you have to really give in to allowing life to affect you. In other words, if somebody wrote a book that said 7 steps to passion, come on. It's not an analytic pursuit. It's an emotional pursuit.
Oh, so you wouldn't write $1 Million Passion?
No. No.
That could be an interesting book, actually. It might not be a business one. Hey, does your passion have to be some monumental thing? I think we often set it up like we have to have this significant why statement that drives everything, and then it just creates even more friction around it. I mean, your passion can be quite simple, right?
Yeah, it could be. Excuse me, it can be almost obscure. I mean, I read about the scientist the other day who specializes in some kind of cuttlefish, which lives in cold water. I don't know, below the surface where you can scuba dive, and he studies this thing. There are people studying the giant squid, few of which have ever been even recorded, but they're lending their findings to science. They're aiding science. They're aiding our understanding of the planet, and they're also following their passion. I mean, they look at Charles Darwin. You don't get on a ship called the Beagle and sail around the world under those conditions. And I don't think his book was published for another 10 years, whatever it was. unless you're passionate, you believe in evolution, it's going to help people understand the human condition and why we're here and so on.
Yeah. I think that sorry, I've got a Dee Dee, I just wanted to share this before I ask the next question. Dee Dee shares, my hobby grew to be monumental.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question around hobbies and passions and also work. I think now, because we live in 2024, there is every opportunity to monetize what you're passionate about. But Alan, I don't see you monetizing your obsession with train sets.
Or my cars, or stamp collecting, or or these rocks I collect from different places.
You collect rocks?
I have rocks from all over this den, hundreds of rocks. With this one says Nantucket, this one's Bali, this one's Mykonos, and I take one rock from where I am and I write what it was. And occasionally I look up at all these rocks all over and I say, you know, guys, without me, you'd never know each other.
Okay, and so you're not selling a course on how to do that?
No,
but I think there's because it's really tempting to turn what you love doing that gives you joy into cash flow. Like, can I just share one? Oh, no, you go, because you're leaning in on this.
I don't want to forget. You go ahead, but then I want to say something.
No, you go. You go.
All right. So what you said is true, except there's nothing wrong with having a hobby that you turn into passion to get cash, which means other people have to find it rewarding for their lives. Nobody really wants to pay to know how I feel driving exotic cars, right? They'll hear about it for free, but then I got to pay for that. And so what I find with a lot of people I coach is they're trying to make money on a hobby, and they haven't. That's why I demand a value proposition, because they haven't converted that to how it helps other people.
Yeah, that's the missing part, right? The importance to others and society. Just on that, I found this amazing video yesterday. It's actually about 10 years old, from a guy in Dallas, Texas. He made $10,000 a month selling potatoes at $10 a pop. He would write a message on a potato and send it anonymously. And this is what I mean. It's like, we live in this time and then he flipped that. He was on Shark Tank, Good Morning America and everything. And now I actually reached out to him on LinkedIn yesterday. Now he just runs a business on how to create viral strategy. So his passion wasn't the potatoes. It was about how to get any idea out there. And I just absolutely loved it. Now we've got a few people joining us today. G'day, Rodrigo. Good to see you again from London. Antero from Helsinki. Incredible. We got so many places covered. Thanks for joining us. Dragika from Chatham, Ontario, and Hour from Detroit. Lovely to have you all here. Let us know if you have...
I'd like to mention to Antero, I've been to Helsinki and also to Jyväskylä and so forth. So I am a Finnish veteran.
And you've been to London? We've both been there.
Well, many times,
yeah. Now, I know you said that finding your purpose, finding your passion isn't really a analytical activity. It's emotional. But are there some useful prompts for anyone out there that's trying to help define their purpose? So maybe they've got an inkling of things that they enjoy and maybe are an important calling.
I think the first thing you have to understand is that your purpose has to be of help to others. It can be grand, society and so forth, or it can be relatively limited, homeless people in your area or whatever it happens to be. But it has to be of help to others. And I think that one of the things that you can use to help you decide what that is would be, what do I love doing that I will overcome obstacles to do, that will also be helpful for people or organizations or the environment or societal mores or whatever it is. And how do I do that for equitable compensation? And that's what it has to look like, equitable compensation. So you can do pro bono work, for example, forever. A lot of people will accept it. But if you never make any money, the bank is going to take your house. So equitable compensation allows you to continue to do what you find is your passion. And equitable compensation is not only monetary. It is emotional reward. It is a sense of well-being. It is a sense of contribution. And it's using your time, in your own opinion, to great advantage.
Yeah, I like that you've defined that it's not only about the money. Like even this live stream today, for me, this is like living my purpose. Even though I don't have a clearly defined statement, I'm enjoying the conversation. We're providing value to people that are listening to it. I'm growing as a result of talking to you. I think Secondary benefits are I get better at being on the spot. By the way, funny point, I've got this new Aura ring. Have you heard of Aura rings?
Yes, I have.
Yes. So it tracks your heart rate, stress levels. And 2 weeks ago at like 6 in the morning, I was like, why was I was in the stressed zone. I was like, what is going on here? And it was during our last Talk the Walk. Because I think it's just, because it's balancing all the different elements. But I don't feel stressed. But I think being, I went to Vegas to learn how to be spontaneous. And so this is a great training ground for that. So thank you.
That's right, because you never know what I'm going to say. And whenever I go into anything, I always learn more than anybody else. It's one of my purposes. And, I think it's a 12th episode. But if you recall, I think you recall this. I think I'm accurate. We were talking about something else, you and I said, why don't we do a show? And then you took it from there. You said, boom, we'll do a show. And, you're the master behind. I mean, I couldn't even get a caption to appear on here. But, you had to do all this. I mean, you do jingles and things. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. Yeah. The jingles, it's exactly. These are different ways of like demonstrating our passion for things. Dee Dee shares, you elevate and educate me with every podcast. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Dee Dee. I mean, you keep us honest and keep coming back for more. But honestly, it's your comments and questions that really drive this conversation as well. Thanks so much. So let's just say someone's listening. I want to go back to this 2x2 you shared, because I think it's really important to, I don't think we some people might be in the bottom left, which is drowning, right? They're not passionate about what they do. They don't feel that it's very important in terms of contributing to other people. Where does in the bottom left start?
You say, where does it start?
Or where do they start if they want to climb out? They don't want to drown anymore. They want to keep swimming.
Well, so if you were to sort of rip a layer off of here, underneath that is low self-esteem. And I believe that where you start is by building your self-esteem for two reasons. One is you realize that you have the ability and the talent to help other people. And you should feel personally satisfied with doing something you love. You shouldn't feel guilty. Too many people and low guilt and stress, guilt and stress and low self-esteem are all in the same sort of basket here. And they create a mask of your talent. You can't get your talent out. So you have to build your self-esteem so that you can say to yourself, I can help other people. I am justified in making equitable compensation for doing that. And I want to use something I'm passionate about to help them. And then if you need help to define what some of those things are, you get help. You get a coach. You talk to somebody who's done it, whatever it is. You don't have to do it all alone. But I think that's the problem there. But you know what happens when you drown? You start to flail and you go down more quickly.
Yeah, that's right. You start taking in more water.
Yeah.
And I think there's a question here. I mean, there's that phrase around like the starving artist. And it's almost a case of, I'm passionate about this, but why is it fair that I get paid for it? Like that's the mentality in that phrase, I imagine.
Well, I think the starving artist was invented so that people whose art wasn't being bought had an excuse. Andy Warhol paints a Campbell's soup can, right? And he makes millions. And I think it was Andy Warhol. And now a guy just did a banana taped to a canvas, which sold for $4 million. Oh. And the funny thing is that one of the curators or somebody took the banana down and ate it. Turns out it doesn't matter which banana is up there. So yeah, it's a true story.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, well, think about it. I mean, sooner or later, the banana rots, doesn't it? You can't just leave it on the wall. So it's a real banana. So, I mean, this is what we've done. Yeah. And so it seems to me that people use excuses sometimes but the excuses aren't because people aren't buying their stuff. Their excuses are because they don't want to really, truly follow their passion and take the risk of being critiqued and take the risk of failing. But if you look at every great artist, they've failed. Every great athlete has failed. Most excellent business people have failed. Life is in continual growth and perfection. But you have to have confidence. You have to have resilience to do that. And if you have low self-esteem, you're lacking those things.
Yeah. That banana story, I'm going to have to check it out. But it's true around that fear of failure, because if you actually go all in on something, then there's that risk of what if it doesn't work? Whereas if you can kind of just do like, oh, I'm just going to, do an okay job, then you're like, oh, well, I didn't, that was fine. It's kind of like that life of mediocrity.
Well, listen, you and I were in Vegas recently, right? And so my wife and I did a little gambling and so forth. But my wife will not play craps. And I said, it's not that difficult to learn. She says, you don't understand. When you have all these chips on a craps table at different places, if the shooter throws craps, they take all your money. And she said, when that happens, I cry. And so I won't pay craps. So it's not like we're doing away with our house or the mortgage here. We can afford to lose some money. But my wife said, no, I can't stand that. So I think a lot of people can't stand the thought of something not being successful, not widely acclaimed.
Yeah.
They're taking all my money off the table. Well, okay, you have more money.
I know, but it's like we only have one life. It's like, when else are you going to give this a shot?
That's
Like
right.
there is no other time. Like that's getting kind of deep there. But what did the Latin say? Memento mori, live as if you're about to die. I think.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
moratori te saluent. We who are about to die salute you. That was the sort of the gladiators refrain. But I think that we can't go through life afraid, because you don't get another shot.
Yeah, that's a really great message to end on. And so during Thanksgiving, is there like a ritual? Do you say what you're grateful for, or like what do you do during Thanksgiving? I'm sure you eat a lot of great food.
We eat too much. And the reason we're going to a restaurant is after you're done, you leave. But if you have it at home, you can't get rid of people. I mean, they're here forever. You can't watch football. So at a restaurant, you have to leave. But different people do different things. I mean, it's a very diverse country. So some people will say grace before the meal. Some people go around and say what they're thankful for. Some people just get drunk. Some people tell the old stories over and over again. And there's always a drunk uncle. But the beauty of Thanksgiving is that you can do it any way you want to do it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that I'm thankful for every day. I'm thankful and I'm appreciative of everything I'm able to do. And so Thanksgiving is sort of a culmination. Okay, let's formally recognize this, but it's something that's intrinsic in my being every day. I have no compunction about admitting that you need to be grateful for where you are. You can't do it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a really great mindset to have, that one of gratitude. And like you said, just waking up and being grateful rather than looking at your calendar and saying, what do you say? It's a march through enemy territory. It's like, actually, what opportunities, what a great day to be alive. That mindset really serves you well.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for you, Alan, and this live stream, and those of you who've joined us today. Alan, what have you got coming up?
Well, thankfully, I'm grounded here. I'm not going anywhere until January. However, I have my last workshop of the year in December. On December 3rd, which is next week, I'm doing a Zoom session on my new book, which comes out in the next 3 days, on how you build community. And then I've got a workshop series for next year for every month by Zoom. And I told you I'm doing Beyond Success. And January, we go to Naples, Florida for some business down there. I say we because my wife comes along. So things are hopping.
Oh, I know you got so many good things coming up. I've got a December 12th, I'm doing a free webinar about my new brand. So I'm releasing a brand new website. I just want to share behind the scenes of what it takes to do a rebrand, because it's kind of, sorry?
What a good idea.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And the designer I worked with, it was an excellent process, like really challenging questions around identity. This was deeper than just a new logo. We did some significant work. So I want to kind of share, and the new site looks amazing. I mean, it's very different.
Can you share what your new brand is?
I not yet.
Okay.
Alan, I will send you a screenshot after this, but for everyone else, I'll put a link in the notes for that live stream. And then December 18, I'm doing a session on wildcard option 3s in your proposal. So I always just do a fun wildcard option in my proposals now, and just showing what that looks like for clients. So
that's fabulous. Very innovative.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Well, look, honestly, I think after working with you, you just have ideas and you throw them out and see if anyone is interested. And it's such a cool approach, because that's the only way to test an idea, right?
Right. And the power of a brand is when you throw ideas out, people give them an honest chance. Doesn't mean everyone's great, but they give an honest chance. Speaking of which, when's our next session?
We are on the 12th of December your time, 13th of December, Friday the 13th December my time. So we'll look forward to.
That would be our last one for the year then.
That's the last one for the year. Yeah. And let us know if you have any ideas for topics in chat, what you'd like to see. Alan, Thanks for another great Talk the Walk. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. I'm going to have dinner shortly.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.